So yeah, welcome everybody to today's webinar on the fundamentals of a successful restoration business. We've got Klark Brown here, who is just awesome in the restoration industry, and we're really excited to have him sharing his experiences and knowledge. Just want to let everyone know that we are recording this webinar, so if you want to watch it again later, you'll get a recording sent out tomorrow, and if you couldn't tune in live, you'll be watching this as a recording later. And if anyone has any questions throughout this webinar, just feel free to throw them in that chat there. Klark will answer them potentially during the webinar if he can, or otherwise we'll have kind of a dedicated Q&A section at the end to get to all of those. So ask any questions all the time. Klark is happy to answer them. And from there, I'll hand it off to Klark if you want to talk a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Justin. Yeah, we've been really excited. I think we've been working on putting this together for a few weeks. A couple of conversations we've had about let's just obviously we have a great product here, but so much of the world in product selling now is being an educator. And you guys asked me, what could we deliver for a resource to the audience that might, it's one thing to know about Levelset, but how can we help them be successful and show value? So we started talking about that, and a couple of different conversations said, let's just do a webinar on just some fundamentals that they may seem, some of the things we're talking about today might seem very simple to some, but sometimes it's the simple things that we overcomplicate everything, and we just come back to making things simple and the early days, and we're just like, yep, it works great. So thank you for the introduction, Justin. My name is Klark Brown. I am about a 21-year veteran of this incredibly fun and crazy disaster restoration and remediation industry. There may be people on the webinar today that might be in another niche of the contracting world, which this will all apply to much of it. You may be in construction, general, new and old reconstruction, maybe some remodeling, or any trade. So we all have our own experiences. I was a contractor on commercial and generally larger loss, fire, water, mold, earthquakes, tsunamis, BP oil spill I worked on for many, many years. And in 2015, I transitioned over into more of an educator role. And mainly just to stop traveling as much. I was literally on the road 230 days a year, and that's hard on the family. So I took what I knew, and I said, there's just a lot of people that are starting out or haven't had exposure to some other things, and I just come from a mentoring mindset. I believe that our best successes come from what others know. So I've got a firm called Restoration Advisors that we work with small and medium-sized contractors on their business and help them through the complexities of the day-to-day, as well as building sustainable, like I said today, fundamentals to where an owner can actually be an owner and not be in the truck and in the crawl space or humping equipment. Nothing wrong with that work. But to grow and scale a business and provide jobs for other people and serve the community, sometimes you just have to really look at the other parts of the business so that you can stay in business. I do some consulting on large losses sometimes. People will have a large industrial fire or hurricane floods, and I will show up for 2 to 3 to 5 days to help put a job on cruise control and show everyone the path. And then I try to, like I said, get out of there. And I like to teach people to do it themselves and not do it for them. And then otherwise, we have a great blog. I would like anyone to go to our website and register for free to grab our blog. It's a weekly. It's usually a business lesson. It's usually a story about something that you might relate to in a way that we overcame something. And then we have a podcast every Wednesday, a very fun, unique podcast called Disaster Podcaster. And what makes it unique is it's a live show. We stream live on our Facebook, on our home website, and YouTube, and we take live callers. So we may have a guest on, we may be talking about a specific topic, but we have the ability with a phone number for people to call in like a radio talk show and ask questions in real time and be part of the conversation and give their particular aspects on maybe the topic we're discussing. Has been really, really fun. And I encourage you, if you do like podcasts, if you can join us live. If not, it always lives eternally as a podcast, and you can consume it as well as all of the others. We're on season 2 right now and having a lot of fun with it. So that's a little bit about me. I've been working hand in hand with Levelset for 3.5 years now as part of an association that I'm the co-founder of called the Alliance of Independent Restorers. It is literally just a coalition, a collective of just great, dedicated industry professionals, small firms, medium firms, large, franchise, non-franchise, that want to see the industry improve through mentorship, through education, through collaboration, and just best practices. And Levelset has been one of our affiliate partners for all of that time, because we like to align with partners that help our members just be better businesses, more sustainable growth, and again, be cash flow positive. So Levelset's been a great partner. I would say well over half of our almost 400 members are customers with Levelset, and it has absolutely changed their business. So that's a little bit about me. I think I'd like to transition over into that. Again, please, 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 I don't know who all is shy, but I love questions, and Justin has my permission to interrupt me and maybe throw one in, and I will stop periodically and ask if anyone needs any clarification on anything that we're talking about. So, Justin, anything right away that you can think of? Are we good?
Yeah, I think you can go ahead. Yeah, I guess those are the names of your organizations. I can just briefly say here, for anyone who doesn't know Levelset yet, we basically just help construction companies, especially restoration, with getting paid, whether that's automating the documents that are required to get paid and make that process smooth, or connecting you with legal help, or any number of things that can just help your business with cash flow. So thanks, Klark, for being here to share some of your knowledge with everybody.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than missing a deadline in maybe whatever state you are. There's some very detailed dates that you have to, exercise your rights, and there's no terrible worse feeling than missing a deadline because you were busy on the next job or 4 jobs, and then you find out that you're just at a very complex situation and you miss it. It's just really a bad feeling, and it's one I think that I know I've made far too many times to admit, and it's just something that once I stopped and it hurt bad enough, I didn't do it anymore, and I again worked with Levelset. And I just encourage you to reach out and at least do a demo and see if it fits into your workflow, and they're just really, really helpful. And I just think there's also, before I move on, I think there's a lot of misconceptions about liens. I think it scares a lot of people, and I will tell you that Levelset has really acquired a great cadence and customer service approach to make it as a seamless part of your workflow, and it becomes customer centric, which I think is a really big deal in our industry, where we have so much empathy for the customer and what they're going through.
There's going to be more on that later too.
Yeah, more on it later. So today's information that I'm going to be sharing with everyone, and we're going to keep it relatively simple because we want to respect everyone's time. But I, as a coach, as an industry, I'm all over the place. I know lots and lots, thousands of contractors and businesses, and I really generally get asked the same 20 questions all the time, and I have for years and years and years. And while I love the light bulb moment that occurs when I share, whether it's right or not, my information, and just give someone a different perspective. And last year, I decided to make an online course called 60 Days to Build a Strong Restoration Company. Now, that does not mean in 60 days from today, if you purchase that course, you're going to have a strong restoration company. It's the deliverability of 60 days consecutive being delivered with small bite-sized conversational lessons videos between 4 and some of them 15 minutes, collated and organized in a way that in kind of an order of what's important. If you're just starting out, maybe you've been in business 4 or 5 years and said, you know what, I didn't start with a plan. I've lost a lot of time. I spent a lot of money doing things the hard way. Maybe I need to tighten up my system a little bit. Or if you've been in the business 12, 15 years, I've got some students that have said, listen, the world is different now than it was in 1993 when I started, and I don't really understand the new world. So this has a very modern approach. It's Netflix style, categorized, and then of course you can watch it on any device, and it's eternal. So I've extracted some of what I thought were the easiest big takeaways that I think people can get value from today from that course. So go to our website, restorationadvisors.com/60 days. There's more information there, and make the purchase, make the investment in yourself. I guarantee you that a couple of days in, you'll already have paid for the course just off of like some quick aha moments. So some of the things we're going to talk about today that are extracted from that in different varying portions are some of the unique things that occur for the restoration contractors. And when I say restoration, it's obviously a bigger category. My experience lies heavily in the firewater remediation side, but restoration can be in roofing. I don't know much about roofing, but what I do know is about a business that does roofing. I know about business, and I think everyone should consider that. So we're going to talk about some challenges that we face here, and then some good anecdotal ways to overcome those, some best practices for sustained business and growth, and then how to do. I think it's a great exercise that periodically, quarterly, biannually, do a checkup on you, do a self audit on your business, and I'm going to show you some really easy to apply tactics for you and your leadership team to have a half day or one day off site, just to shut the phones off and just check and say, hey, are we on track? Are we going the direction that we intended? Or are we stuck in the weeds? So I just want to give everyone some of these really good takeaways. Probably none of it you haven't heard before, but it probably is things that we aren't doing consistently. So any questions so far before we get started? Should I be doing this in Spanish, Justin, or are we okay in English?
I think English is good.
Okay. All right.
We can translate it later.
Translate later. Perfect. Yeah, we are in the year 2022. So, everyone, the three unique challenges, and I think things you've got to think about in the restoration industry. Number one is outside resistance. I wrote delay, deny, defend here. And what I'm speaking about here is we deal a lot with insurance carriers and their parties. Insurance is a very big stakeholder in a lot of claims, and they have an important role, and thankfully they're there to help the public rebuild their lives. But it is complex, and there are systems at play. So there's a book called Delay, Deny, Defend. If anyone wants to just screenshot that, look that up on Amazon. If you're in this industry and you have not read that, I would urge you strongly to make that your very first thing you do. So great book. We call it the Bible, to not be blasphemous of our industry. And it's just a framework of what's going on, and I think the best thing. So another challenge that we have, and this probably expands to all industries, is pricing influence. And when I talk about pricing, just the skill and art of scoping a job and estimating it to make sure you are profitable and then competitive. And that gets very complex, especially in the insurance world. We're going to talk a little bit about that. There are things at play. They're not illegal, but they are definitely engineered to benefit one side, and we can't be victims of that. We have to educate ourselves to at least put together a good defense so we can form an offense and be sustainable. And then another challenge in our industry, in all trades, is in 2022, I don't think it's ever been easier to start a business. There's a low bar of entry into restoration remediation. There are standards, but there's a lack of what I would call good regulations. And some states have some regulations, and it might be arguable that they're not enforced well enough. So I think all of us in this industry that have been in it for a little while would like to see something done about that, because we all agree with it. It's just too easy for anyone to start a company. So the first topic is the outside resistance. The first thing is, and this is going to be more for your commercial projects. It could be on residential, multifamily, property management companies. You have multiple stakeholders, and this is a project management issue. This is one in the realm of communications. We may say we communicate well, but how do we communicate when there is a landlord tenant? There is a tenant that has a business that has complexities, and you've got a carrier involved, or maybe an owner's rep. And then an insurance company, a carrier, might hire their own parties, such as engineers and consultants and third parties. And so, and then you might have on some jobs other trades that are working alongside. And while I say that's not necessarily resistance, sometimes those trades have their own timeline, maybe a reconstruction. You're trying to do the early remediation and emergency services, and they're on some kind of timeline trying to rush you. I've watched this turn very, very badly if you don't have a good way to be compliant and be professional. So I think everyone needs to always ask themselves and their client, who's involved, who needs to know what, how often, and how would you like those messages and updates delivered. I love tailgate meetings. I love the contractor meetings. And I love transparency. And I think you just put that front and foremost in part of your initial diagnostics. It really sets up the rest of it. So you're going to get resistance. And I urge everyone to not take it personal. If you have a carrier who is trying to dictate the scope and maybe adjust some pricing, that's their job. And I don't want anyone taking it personal. Don't become argumentative. It's not good for your client. Remember, they're watching and they think they hired a professional, and you want to do so. So that takes me into the second one, was educate yourself on what's going on. It's called the claims process. Insurance companies don't make money by paying out more than they collect in premiums. I mean, they're a business. Delay Deny Defend will absolutely pull back the curtain on much of this conversation, and I think that will help you put it into perspective. But the first thing you can do is educate yourself. Speak less, listen more, understand, and then develop your own systems for that. Be aware of what's going to be coming. Advise your client where your lines are and what you're capable of doing and what you plan to do, and also what you plan not to do. And I think that's very, very important to remember, that you are the professional of whatever you were hired to do, and stay in your lane. I find a lot of people get very, very deterred and taken off their track and become a little, again, argumentative. And that's not attractive for your client. They want all their stakeholders and all their contractors to play nice, to get them back in business. And I think sometimes we forget about that, and we get a little selfish. I can tell you many times in a younger self that I did. I knew everything, and no one was going to tell me what to do, until I realized that people were just advocating for what they knew. And if they understood my point, they might have an aha moment. So then it moves into the third one, Justin, and everyone listening. This is client onboarding. This is something I teach this a lot now. I'm actually going to be creating an online course just for this. I'm traveling the country right now teaching one-day workshops just to kind of work out the feedback. But I believe that client onboarding is a superpower. I think we all say we do this, but you've got to be very targeted to set the expectations and start controlling the narrative. I like to tell contractors, if it's not your program and the client doesn't know what your program is, you're going to be using someone else's program, and it might not be financially or business beneficial to you. So that is just having a process of clarity and setting expectations, and then ensuring that all the way from your marketing, from your contracts, to every person in your company are saying and doing the same exact thing. So the expectations are, this is what it is. I need to be paid on time. We need to get responses quickly so that we can continue to move forward. I like to tell everyone it's like Chick-fil-A. You go to any Chick-fil-A across this country and you know what it's going to probably taste like, and ignore the line around the building or 2 laps around the building, and you're going to find out that it's good. They're going to move through. They've got great processes. So I believe that's like the gold standard in the bar. So that's the outside resistance that I think we just need to be aware of and spend some time on. Get out of the weeds and stop being reactive and start getting really proactive. And this has of course helped me throughout my career, and I didn't always do it great, but these are things that I learned from someone else. Someone else spent time for me to say, I'm tired of watching you struggle, Klark. I'm going to teach you some things. I'm like, great. So the next topic in this is pricing influences. Another big topic. I want to try to be a very specific. Pricing influences obviously means we're in a weird time. Anyone watching this, maybe 5 years from now, we're coming out of the tail end of 2 years of this nation and world that were very interesting and unique, and something that a lot of us have never dealt with, and we're still realizing a lot of things, and that's the COVID-19 complexities. And when I'm talking about pricing influences, that has changed the price of goods, the availability of goods, the lead time, of course, huge staffing complexities, the availability of quality staff, as well as the cost of it. I mean, any contractor that I know has seen 30 to 40% jumps in salary requirements to just get good people. And then more specific in the insurance side, we work with some industry. I dare use the term industry standard because it starts to make it sound like we all should be required to use it. But some very common software that we all use that is widely misunderstood on the way that it is to be used and deployed, and what its power is, and what it's not supposed to be used for. And I think some of that is aggravated by the carrier, out of nothing but building a process. They have controlled the narrative of how that is used, and that of course goes into, they've got some contractual agreements with contractors that are in MRPs, managed repair programs, or TPAs, who they actually do agree to use standard pricing from this software. But those that choose not to be on those programs, or not on those lists, or in those agreements, they aren't connected to those influences, but they certainly are affected heavily by them. It's a very big, a very large pressure point in our industry. And I'm here in Reno this week at the RIA, the Restoration Industry Association, and it's much of the conversation among the attendees, as well as some of the breakout sessions, were understanding these things and working through them. So I know that I've had plenty of time, while I'm not a user of this very common program. I've always been I'm a line item and a T&M billing type of person, where I control my own price. But now, being a coach, I see it daily. So anybody out there that wants to chime in, that they're having this frustration right now and they're trying to work through these complexities, I'd like you to chime in. We're going to get to some questions in just a minute, and Justin can tell us about it. But I think what you've got to do is, again, seek out what you don't know. And I will promise you, there's a lot that you don't know. There are people who have overcome this particular struggle. It took some time. It took a lot of scar tissue. And you need to know those people. You need to know, okay, give me an example of who is doing what, so that I would have the confidence and clarity and the path and the framework to do the same for myself. And that's where this mentoring comes in. So I encourage you to connect to peers and colleague industries, and be part of conversations, so that you can continue to work through this and remove this from your threat list. think the other consideration is the low bar of entry for our industry. I don't think that needs a lot of dialogue. I mentioned a little bit earlier, it's very, very, very easy to go grab a van and $3,000 to grab some equipment. You can rent it and have no training, no certifications, and start doing work that requires a high level of education to not damage property or put people's lives at risk, people being customers or employees. There's a lot of safety considerations in our industry. And it's these seemingly entrepreneurs not knowing that they are harming anyone. It's what you don't know is what you don't know. You know, it's terrible, but they are entering this industry. I like to believe the best in people. I believe that they want to know the right way. They just aren't asking the right questions. They're just trying to survive and make some dollars. And they're met with all the same issues you're going to have. The carriers not wanting to pay them, employees not showing up, where to get new work from, sales and marketing, digital marketing is very interesting. They're in that scramble mode just like we are, but they're not putting enough emphasis on how do I properly manage this indoor air quality? How do I dry the right way or make things safe and restore them to their pre-loss condition? And the truth is, this, whether it's intentional or whether it's immoral people just trying to be greedy, it hurts those of us trying to do the right thing because the public has, and I'm the same way as a person that's a consumer of goods. I lump things into one big category and say this group or this type of product is all trash because I had experience with one thing that was not good. Well, maybe it's a coffee maker. Well, I bought a cheap coffee maker and I said, oh man, all coffee makers are junk. I just didn't spend the money and invest in the right one. I just bought the cheap one. Well, that happens in our industry. You can't get cheap and good and fast, all three. You have to pick one or two. So I think everyone can agree with that. But this goes back to a lack of regulation, a lack of enforceability and accountability of our industry. And I think this cleaning up this area can't be done by government. I think there should be some regulation. It should not be done by the insurance companies. We need to clean up our own industry. And I think that's a real, again, accountability is my favorite word here. We need to favor our own industry and say, we know what good looks like. So reach out to these people that are not doing great work and give them grace and mercy and say, listen, could I buy you some coffee? I'd like to talk to you about a few things. Maybe I'd like to show you the right way. That's not the way a lot of people think in this industry or in trades because the competition is it. Listen, I would much rather the people in my market be doing good work. They're not going anywhere for a while. I'd like them to do good work so that we all actually have a better reputation. I hope that makes sense to everyone. That's certainly what our ethos is at AIR. It's, learn one, teach one, reach out to people. If they're not interested in learning the right way, then we put on a whole different hat and we have to expose that and take care of it. Any questions so far, Justin?
I don't see any questions in the chat, but anybody who has any questions, feel free to throw them in there or the Q&A at any time.
Well, I'll keep cruising along. Don't want to go too fast, too slow. Want to keep it right in the middle. The other topic today is just talking about best practices for sustained business success and growth. We can get real focused a lot on one thing, especially usually the one thing that is most urgent that day. And we forget, in all of my classes and my YouTube channel and everything, I say it all the time, don't be a roofer, be a business, a marketing company and a business that happens to do roofing. If the insurance industry says we're an investment firm that happens to sell insurance because they are investing funds from premiums. Be in business. I understand, be the best roofer you can be, but don't forget that the business, you have to be solvent. You have to be, culture has to be there. We're going to talk about that. You've got to be financially profitable, sustainable, and legal, following, not getting in trouble and things like that. So it all is a big I'll steal this from Justin's city. It's a big gumbo. It's a big Louisiana gumbo. It's not just gumbo with just one ingredient would not be very good. It's a lot of different things that make a very, now I'm hungry. So now I'm talking about gumbo. So a very delicious bowl. So we're going to talk about that for just a minute. I have a couple points here. It's financial management, overhead, profit, and cash flow. I find, and I think what keeps me employed in my company is our industry have grown up many times being in the business. It might be a second generation, grew up in construction, maybe you're a good carpenter, understand building. Um, and it's that one thing that you do real well. You might make great cabinets, but running a business, understanding a P&L, uh, not having to Google what EBITDA is over and over and over, and understanding how to make great decisions strategically so that you can move forward and how to measure things. So I think more people should balance their education and gain some financial intelligence. It's not fun. Some people, it's like, I don't want to be a Forbes 1000 company. Well, you're going to be a Forbes Zero company if you cannot figure out how to be profitable. In the early days, I know most contractors don't have QuickBooks. They're just working out of their bank account. And you ask them, how profitable are you? Well, I've got money in the bank. I must be profitable. That's not the right answer. Learning what gross and net margins are and what affects that and how you can increase that, because you're going to have to spend money on marketing that's going to eat away at your bottom line, or you're never going to grow and you're going to stay one truck or small. So I really encourage everyone to step outside of your comfort zone, seek that information at a local college, through a coach, through a peer. Maybe someone in your market's a great business person. You said, hey, can we have a series of lunches over the next 3 months? I'll trade some services for some education. The right people will say, absolutely. I'll show you. Bring your P&Ls. We'll break it down, simple terms, and you'll come out the other side and say, wow, it just really wasn't that complicated. So I really, really encourage that a whole lot. And that leads to a lot of other things. Knowing your numbers, it helps you be more competitive on your pricing and whatnot. Um, and this is where Levelset comes in. Knowing your numbers and knowing what happens if you don't collect that $42,000 job because you missed the lien rights is where Levelset could be a great partner for you. And they help you through sending the notices. And once you've made collections, they do lien waivers, and your customer's happy. You didn't lien their house, you didn't take their house. But I think this is where this automation can allow you to be fluid, run through all the other things in your business, but this is always there. So putting these kinds of things in your workflow, in your process of your company, just make you a stronger, more sustainable business. Everyone should be building their business to one day possibly sell their company. Even if you don't plan to, maybe your kids are going to take over your business. Maybe you're going to run it until it's the last thing you do. That's fine. But you do need to plan to build value in it, because if that one day comes along and you do get approached by an acquisition offer, which is happening a lot in our industry right now, or if maybe you come down ill, or your spouse comes down ill, or you decide that you've got 7 grandkids and you really want to spend more time, you might change later. And it's hard the day you decide you want to start thinking about selling your company. You're sometimes finding out that you are 6 years away from that really happening. So start from now with the end in mind. Best practices, we've already talked a little bit about this. Learn the insurance game, learn the navigation through what your abilities are as it comes to insurance companies. It's a really big topic. You are not an insurance representative for your customer. I understand we want to advocate for them, but there are legal ramifications for when you step out of line when dealing with an insurance company on your customer's behalf. And I think it's important. It's in our course. We go into that a lot about what the laws are, and it actually helps your customer understand where you stop and start. But learning that, the complexities of it, the delay, deny, defend will help a lot. Learn what your documentation requirements will be to make it easier to get paid. They're going to require it. You can argue that you don't need to document everything, but you just do. They're not going to quickly pay your customer to pay you if you're not, they're going to need documentation, and it's just an excuse for them to delay payment. Don't give them any ammunition for that. So I think that's a good best practice, is to really strengthen your area for that, where it's not sometimes, it's all the time. This is Justin May can tell me, I think you can download this from this template. I'm not sure how everyone can get a hold of this, but this is something that we've created years ago called the power questions. When you're dealing with a customer and trying to help them, you've already explained what to expect from you as a contractor, what your scope's going to be, when you're going to be there, what you're going to do, what it's going to look like, how loud it's going to be, and et cetera, et cetera. This is where I think you can do on this employee or client onboarding, is giving them these questions, which are intended for them to ask their carrier in writing via email. And I say this because most customers have not had to file a major insurance claim. They don't know what to ask. You are becoming a resource for them to help them within the confines of what you can do to ask their insurance company things. And they're simple. What if my costs exceed my policy limits? What happens if to do this work costs me more than I have in the insurance? Is my claim covered? You're going to want that. The customer wants to have that in writing, not an ambiguous phone call and then later someone changes their mind or they say there was an error. I have in writing that this was covered. Can I choose the contractor of my own to do the repairs to my home? You'll have a lot of insurance companies that will try to send out their preferred vendors. Preferred by who? I'm not real sure. A customer has a choice. And if they enjoy your company and have connected to you and trust you, and your online reviews tell them that you are the best in town for 20 years, why would they not be able to use you? So this is a template that I really recommend everyone put into their workflow. It should be automatic, whether you hand this to the customer, where you email it to them, and guide them through how to use it. Again, you're telling your customer, expect the same thing from me. So that was a good one. The next one is...
I'll just interrupt quickly. We'll be sending out the slides as well as the recording, so you'll be able to click a download link there, and we'll try to include it in the email and any other place that we can make it easy to access. So you can download that.
Great. Yeah, take that. I know hundreds of contractors that use it every day, all day now, and the customers just really appreciate that one little nugget, that one little takeaway for that, because that's an area that they're confused on. So thank you, Justin, for that. The next thing, best practices to be a strong company, is don't forget customer service. You might think that doesn't need to be talked about here, but it happens a lot. We get caught up in the documentation, the equipment, the complexities with the insurance company, and we forget that we have a customer over here that needs things from us. I always tell everyone, remember that you are a customer to other things. You have expectations, and if the customer is being left out and they aren't being served, in today's environment, a bad review can really hurt your business. Just be customer centric. I've talked about the onboarding. Set the tone early. Keep your sense of urgency in the beginning. Keep your demeanor, your tone and tenor of when you're trying to win that job and get it signed. Continue that. There's nothing worse than once a contract is signed, a different team comes in who really makes the customer feel like they are not important. It is terrible, and I have experienced it, and my company has delivered it. So become client-centric. I would almost say exceedingly so. There's exceed expectations. You say you're going to do one thing, give more. Just go out of your way. Lots of check-ins with the customer. Check in with them throughout the day and throughout the week, and ask them if there's anything that they're concerned about often. If they tell you, shut up, leave me alone, that's a whole other thing. But what I like to say is own the home. Your trust will be so bound that no matter what influence and pushback you get on either your pricing or your scope, the customer is going to say, but I have a professional here that's done this thousands of times, and they have done everything they said they would do. So really focus on that. The best companies in the industry have this nailed down. So work on that and just become customer centric. The other two don't need a lot of explanation. I get into operations. It's kind of my wheelhouse. Is you need systems for everything. It's boring. It's tedious. It's time consuming. But believe me, your staff, your customers, your CPA, everyone really likes to follow a path and a pattern, and they like to have a GPS to know how to get from here to there. It's not comfortable to just figure it out on the fly all the time. So this is building processes, and I like to tell people anything you do more than once should be written and deliverables for anyone that's new or existing to look up and be reminded, and then create trainings around and retrainings and continuing education. Then policies. Most people develop company policies only after they've had an issue. Um, uh, Driving a company vehicle on personal use that usually doesn't hit an employee manual until after someone has abused that. Um, Smoking on the job policy, cell phone policy, sexual harassment things. I mean, these things matter, and you're a real legitimate company, and they need to be put in there. So really spend some time on that. If that's not your wheelhouse, most ownership groups for companies are either sales minded or they are operations analytically minded, and they will steer away from the thing that they're not. But that's needed. So find a partner, find a staff member, or maybe a coach or consultant that can help strengthen those areas where you're weak, because that will make you a really an unbeatable force in your market and your community. Then last is culture. Culture is everything. I have a podcast next week with a client. We did a podcast last year, a year and a half ago. It was on his culture, and we're going to do a secondary follow up next week. Of he's gone from 3.5 million to he's on chart to do 7 this year. Went from 11 to 12 employees to 34, and that doesn't happen without incredible culture to keep those people, to help grow, empower them, and having a good mission where everybody knows where we're going and everybody knows when we haven't gotten in there. Safety, big policy thing about safety, culture, and putting the team first and making everyone there, especially in today's market, where how hard it is to find people. These are the best companies have this stuff nailed down. I tell people, don't go to every drawing class or every industry technical class. Sprinkle it in with some of these other educations and really create a well-rounded thing. Any questions so far on that? Anyone have any experiences on the chat, real quick, that they can share uh, with where maybe they knew this from the beginning and said, "Hey, my company started out strong because we knew what to do from my past career," or "Wow, it wasn't until year 4 where I got my teeth kicked in a few times that I figured out that I needed to start over and build my company from the ground up again." So I know that was my case, and that's why I'm so passionate about it now, because I don't think people have to repeat my mistakes. If they're willing to listen, I'm willing to teach anyone so that they don't have to encounter that. So, do we have any questions, Justin?
Yeah, actually, a question just came in related to those business practices. And basically, the question is, how do you use Levelset specifically? Any tips or tricks that really optimize the use of Levelset to reduce AR or aging AR, accounts receivable? And basically, I can definitely send you to some payment experts on the Levelset team who can tell you more about that. We have lots of content. I think the kind of kernel of the question is, how does managing your lien rights process and all of these different payment processes help your business with AR, and if you have any experiences with Levelset specifically and how it makes it easier.
I do. I have two things. So I'll start with the bigger one first. A lot of companies do a lot of storm and what we call cat work, catastrophe work here. Obviously, living in Louisiana, you are well aware of that as part of life for you, and maybe if you're in Florida. A lot of companies that might be in, let's say, Indiana, Ohio, or Tacoma, Washington, might have teams that travel to these areas. It's important to have a really good hold on lien rights in other states. That's not something you want to. You might have every bit of information you need to know of your own backyard, but you go to Louisiana, Florida, and there are restrictions. There's just so much complexity around it, and Levelset handles that for you. They're all 50 states. They have attorneys, and they know where you're working, and they're going to guide you through that. So that's one. I think what I'm asked a lot is from a customer service, how do we manage lien rights without it being obtrusive in their face? And again, if a customer sees that something that you do is part of your process and you do it for everyone, if they see that you have 113 reviews and all 113 of those went through the same process, it becomes to not feel targeted. I also think that learning up front, and Levelset's really good at helping educate the contractor with how to deliver what liens really are. But I will tell you, the strength of a lien to me is when I learned this very early on from Levelset. It's from a video you guys, I believe you still have it on your website. Claims that come to an insurance company or to any payables department, they almost have the claims payment people have two piles on their desk. Those that need to be taken care of right away because it might be from they're either clean and in order or they have leverage, which would a lien is in place. And those that don't have any leverage, those can be stalled. They can wait. They're too big of a headache to mess with, to clean them up. So they're going to take the path of least resistance. I want to be in the short pile that's getting paid quicker from a carrier, from a customer, or anything. So Levelset has helped our industry and thousands of contractors maneuver through letting everyone know that liens are not evil. It's not a credit hit. It's not, you're not going to lose your home unless services aren't paid for, which anyone can agree right away that if you don't know in the beginning that you can pay us when it's time to get paid, then maybe we shouldn't be doing work together. I would rather know in the beginning. Maybe we shouldn't be working together at all. And I think these are conversations that if we have these up front, the rest of the project can go much smoother with no surprises. I hope that answered the question a little bit for whoever asked it, or if Justin, if you wanted to add to that.
Yeah, I think those are some great points, and that's something we hear a lot is, well, I'm worried about upsetting the customer, and by asking for payment or escalating to a lien or something like that. And
Yeah.
we always ask the question, why are you trying to hold on to a customer who's not going to pay you? If they're not a customer, then they're just, someone who's taking advantage of you. So,
Yeah.
you definitely want to, have good customer service, especially in the restoration industry, but you also want to be professional and clear with your expectations. And I'd also add, someone else added actually here in the chat something that I was also going to say, which is understanding the state requirements. Is what someone mentioned they find helpful with Levelset's tools. To actually file a lien, you have to have the property address and all the parties listed out properly. You might have to send out a notice by a certain deadline. There's all these different requirements, even the font size and the color of the text, or whether you've signed it physically or digitally. Like every state has their own requirements, and that's something that Levelset really shines with, which is, the software kind of automates a lot of that in the first place, so no human even has to really think about it. But we also have a dedicated team that does research and finds all that job info, and that's something that helps you really streamline that whole process of protecting your payments and getting that cash that you've earned when you deserve it, really. Because as Klark said, some people will just not prioritize you if you don't have your stuff in order. So
Yeah.
that's about what I'd say.
Justin, I will tell you, I use a term all the time: fair but firm. I use that as a parent. I use that as a boss and as a coach. I'm going to be very fair, but I'm going to be firm. I understand that if I don't instruct my customer what's going to happen, that's my fault. But once they know and they act unaccordingly, that's theirs. When it comes to lien rights, guys, I always put it in this thing. If you are doing everything you were supposed to do, you're usually waiting to get paid because another side is not holding up their promise. That's not your responsibility. The insurance company or whatever party it was made a promise via a contract, which is a policy, to pay. If they are not doing that, then that customer, your customer, needs to take that up with them and hold them accountable just as they are you. So I easily put myself at ease by saying I did my job. I don't need to absorb their burden and their connectivity to their carrier. I don't need to assume their liabilities. I have enough of my own. So again, I think a customer appreciates that once you put it into a term like you're going to get the best of me. You're going to get 110%. I'm getting 5 stars from you, but I have to be paid for it, or else I can't help other people in my parish or in my county, and that's just not going to work for me because I love what I do. So these are the conversations that I have when it comes to these harder areas. I just keep them positive and make sure everyone knows that how they benefit both sides.
In the restoration industry, especially, I see there was another comment here in the chat that, it's really important to onboard your clients correctly so that they're on your side if to quote here, if any shenanigans begin, based on what you were saying.
Yeah, you want cheerleaders and crusaders. You want your customer fighting for your money to get paid so they can pay you. They know there was a promise. They saw your team showing up, doing the hard work, getting in a crawl space. You want them to say, why would we not pay for them, right? Now, if you didn't do a good job, they're not, if you didn't tell them what was coming and acted on accordingly, they're not going to go to bat for you. I wouldn't either. We all know that. We all stand up for a waiter that's done a good job. But if they haven't, they're probably not getting a good tip, and I'm not too worried about it. And I'm certainly not telling people to go eat there. So I always remember to tell yourself and your staff, we're all consumers. We all know what it feels like to be on the other side. Don't forget that. Never, ever, ever forget that, where you came from. Good stuff. The last one is, and I'll keep this one relatively simple. I think it's very, very important to periodically, and depending on the size of your company, your team, and what all services you provide, you've got to do a tune-up. You have to go and take a look at these recorded missions and goals and visions and ask yourself the hard questions of where are we in that journey? Have we gone off astray? Have we taken a detour? Have we stalled? We lost some staff and the new team doesn't really know where our mission are. But I think it's time to check how your business stacks up. And you know what? Look for the failures. Some people don't like to see the failures. Some people, just one more thing. I like to see the failures quick and early so that I can solve them, because I don't want them. I would rather fix my company when I'm $1 million instead of encounter them when I'm 20, because they hurt a lot worse and the multiplier is huge. So it's really just, is that you, Justin? Is that a picture of you? I like to do, anyone that's been in business a while may have heard of a SWOT analysis. And the SWOT is an acronym for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And this is a collaborative exercise that you do with your team, whoever you choose, maybe your whole company. You can do this on the company in general. You could actually do this on a new initiative or your marketing department. And really, over here on the left side and the blue side, the strengths and weaknesses, these are internals. So you've got internal strengths, areas that we really excel at, that we think we have figured out, where we have the distinct advantage in our market. Those are things that you're going to, you literally whiteboard this, and the whole team does it, and one person's got a marker, and everyone's yelling out, what are we good at? Training, equipment, location. Write them all down. You're going to create this real visual board. Then you're going to clean it up. Because this column is going to be where you showcase, where maybe our marketing team should remind the public that we have the best training, or we have the best processes, or that we have the most experience, or that we're the fastest, we get there the quickest, or the biggest fleet, whatever that might be for you. These are strengths you have, a great culture. Tell people it doesn't matter how good your culture is. If you want the public to know how good the young men and women are that work there and showcase them, if you aren't marketing that, they can't read your mind. So doing a strengths Weaknesses are the opposite. Internal weaknesses. These are things we don't do well. We don't communicate amongst divisions from one side to the other. We don't follow up with our customers nearly as good as we do. We don't use our lien rights the way. We find ourselves way too often missing our deadlines or forgetting or just choosing not to. This was Mrs. Jones and she was a widow and I didn't want to do the lien rights, but now her carrier has not paid. You're 150 days out on $20,000. You have no leverage, and that's a weakness. I fell victim to a weakness. These are things that you're going to make task lists on and say, okay, okay, it's great. We have weaknesses. How do we overcome them? Let's go to the gym, get stronger, put them over into the strengths category. This is a real simple exercise, guys. This is not new. It's been around business a long time. We move over to the other side, opportunities and threats on the white side, and these are externals. What opportunities do we have for growth? What things could we be doing that we add onto our business, or what things that we're doing now that we're not doing enough of? That's really profitable work, we're just not doing enough of it, or we're not approaching this type of referral partner. It's external. Get those on paper, because I promise you, visual cues remind you of that. I remember us talking about that before, but we never took action. Now's the time to use this exercise to put that on a calendar and devise a plan of, these are the first 3 things that we need to do to make this become a real thing for us. Or at least maybe it's due diligence. Maybe someone says, hey, let's add this service to what we already do. Okay, we need to learn a little bit about it. We need to learn about what the materials cost are and what the skill level and training is going to be and how would that look? Who else does that in my market? Things like that. So that might be the very first thing. I like to look at things in 90-day windows. To take 90 days to say, we're going to meet back here in 90 days and have the information from this opportunity. So, just seeing it, and this also comes from the advancement. Everyone watching here and listening, that how quick the technology is advancing and changing and the way the customers shop. We might still be operating on the last generation of how we communicate. It might be a time to learn to poll our questions or poll our customers. How can we communicate with you? Are we still doing text? I know people that their customers use Facebook Messenger. I personally don't think it's the right way to do it, but you got to meet them where they are. So I think looking for external opportunities. And then the second part of that are threats, external threats, items that pose a roadblock to your success. These could be weather pattern. These could be new regulations in the government regionally, could be new policies of I know in Texas, we had the big freezes last year, and a lot of people have these new policies where their deductibles are now 1% and 2% of their homes. And we were seeing some large homes, a deductible might be $18,000 to $25,000. That is a threat to what we do. One may say, what does that have to do with us? A customer is now making different decisions on how to proceed. You need to have some answers for that. You need to be aware so that you can build a case. Other threats may be competition, things like that. Or your weaknesses will show up as threats, even though they're external. But external things are, again, whatever. So maybe there's road traffic. Maybe you're more of a retail business and they're changing the roads out front of you. You got to figure out a way to make it easier for your customers to come by. Maybe you're a flooring company and people can't get in there. Whatever that is, figure that out. Could be pricing. External threat is the pricing of gas right now. It's hurting our profit. It's going straight to the bottom line. We have to adjust and look at our pricing model. Doing these at the end of if this is a one day, I like to do these off-site sometimes, just get a conference room, just a meeting room somewhere where you're not just obstructed by everything, and come back with a really good roadmap of what the next couple of months might look like. And you'll feel relieved that I'm glad we have clarity on that. We do this with customers all the time, and it usually creates about a year's worth of work for them to work on things. So has anyone ever done a SWOT analysis in the listening or viewing audience today? Okay. Well, if that answer pops up and anyone could tell me, hey, they put me to sleep or these have been great for me, just let me know. If you're interested in talking to us at Restoration Advisors about helping you build this. We will certainly do so. One more thing for sustainable businesses, again, you have got to think that you are a marketing company. You've got to become, I call it, be a magnetic business. People are attracted to you. Focus on the fundamentals to improve the efficiency, accuracy, and consistency. Consistency is key. People, if they know what to expect and you actually do what you said, and then they later refer you to a friend or a neighbor or a colleague, and that friend or neighbor gets the exact same experience, you're now building upon a pattern that is going to duplicate itself many times over, and you're now living off of relationships, which, by the way, is the best leads you can get and the most affordable in your marketing. And it's also just people that want to work with you. You're not chasing work, it's coming to you. Um, the public is, I like to say, yearning. The public is looking for great service right now. We all know that you hire a contractor or a mechanic or anything, or go to a restaurant, and we're being met sometimes with lackluster performance in attitude. The public is hoping when they call you or when you find out that they've had a fire flood and they've hired you, they're hoping that you're going to be the right contractor. Be that. Touch them where they are. And again, all of these points that I'm talking about today are what's going to make you a very sustainable business so you can build, build, build. I want to be the best. I want to be the best drying company in the technical, do the best mold remediation. But it doesn't matter if the public doesn't see you that way. I think everyone that's in business should become the subject matter expert at what they do. That people say, they're a little more expensive than others, but I know it's going to be right. I know it's going to be worth it, and I won't have to check over my shoulder and have it done twice. So, I like to just tell my team, be magnetic, make people attract, and that comes in all forms. Your vehicles should be clean. Your person answering the phone, your website should be really, really good. Your reviews, your team should be in uniforms. It starts a pattern for people. So it's really a fundamental that I think we all strive for. I just challenge everyone to be a little more intentional and if focus on that. That should be one of the things that the owner, the leaders of the company, just hold as a standard. So that's about wrapping it up for me, everyone. Again, simple. These are excerpts. If you're more interested in uh, the bigger program, this is just a sliver of it. It's really great, and it's also attached to a private community of our own. It's not on Facebook. We have a very an awesome online platform where you will be put into a forum and a chat group, whatever. Discussion group with others that are taking the course that already have, and just trade ideas and share wins and losses. So I'll take any questions we have here right now, which I hope we have some, Justin.
We've had a lot of good questions throughout, but yeah, if anyone has any more questions, Klark can answer them here. While we wait to see if there are any questions, I just wanted to say thanks again for being here to share all of this really insightful stuff. I found it really informative, and hope everyone who joined us live here thought so, or anyone who's watching after the fact. So thanks again, Klark.
Yeah, you're welcome. Last thing for me is if you like the course, you've seen the slide, you'll get an email of the slide. Definitely check out levelset.com. And then if you are the type of company that wants to be surrounded by peers that are doing the best work and that maybe refer work to each other, collaborate once a month with coffee, check out airrestore.org. We have chapters in almost every market in the country. And, again, Levelset has some very members. If you are interested in joining Levelset, becoming a member of AIR will get you some extra benefits as well as some savings. So it's a win-win for everyone. And I think those are usually how I like to do it. But it's my pleasure. I love helping this industry. Anyone that calls gets a call back from me. It's a sickness that I've got. So yeah, I just want to see people win here because I love this industry and I know how important the work we do is.
Thank you, Clark.